so concerned about their farm finances right now, they really just can't catch a break. It's not just because corn prices are below break even for most. It's the fact input prices are so high. In fact, input prices could be even higher this fall. But could the one big beautiful bill provide the help farmers desperately need?
The market working in ideas of record U.S. corn yields, which could push ending stocks back over 2 billion bushels. Plus, Brazil's corn crop also looks like a record. The Farm Service Agency has announced additional disaster assistance through a second stage of the Supplemental Disaster Relief Program.
So on SDRP Stage 1, we have thus far distributed approximately $5.7 billion. We have set aside up to $16 billion in total for both stages of the SDRP program.
Stage 1 focused on crop losses for major commodity crops covered under crop insurance, but Baden says Stage 2 brings in more specialty crops and those non-insured.
SDRP Stage 2, as we noted a few moments ago, is focused on those who suffered shallow, non-indemnified losses for which they either didn't have crop insurance or you couldn't purchase crop insurance.
The shallow loss payment also fills the gap left from previous disaster programs.
In a world where every trade deal shapes global power, in a world where food is not just food, but leverage, influence, and control, Kenya has just made one of the boldest decisions in African trade history. A decision with $12 billion on the line. Kenya's Ministry of Agriculture stepped forward with a statement that stunned markets worldwide. Kenya will no longer accept U.S. corn imports under current conditions. Within minutes, American agribusiness giants, from Iowa to Nebraska, were in full crisis mode. Because Kenya is not just any beer, it represents one of Africa's most vital and fastest growing grain markets. And this time, the door has been shut. The decision wasn't random, it wasn't emotional, it wasn't political noise. Kenya laid out three major reasons. Safety and quality concerns. Kenya raised red flags about contamination levels and standards that did not meet the country's updated safety regulations. Strengthening local farmers. Kenya is investing heavily in local maize production, aiming for long-term food security and reduced dependency on imports. Africa's new trade confidence. Across the continent, nations are asserting themselves, demanding fairer terms, cleaner exports, and respect for local policies. Kenya's message was clear. Africa is no longer accepting one-sided trade. In Washington, alarms went off. The United States has long relied on African markets for agriculture exports, especially corn. Kenya's shift threatens U.S. farmers' profits. Midwest supply chains. Future trade negotiations influence in East Africa. Analysts estimate that the ripple effect could cost U.S. exporters up to $12 billion across the next decade, because if Kenya can stand firm, other African countries can too. This isn't just Kenya. This is Africa's shift to a new trade identity, where nations prioritize local production, high safety standards, regional supply chains, agricultural self-sufficiency, from Nigeria banning rice imports, to Tanzania protecting local grains, to South Africa tightening food standards. A new era is here. Africa is no longer a passive market. It is a negotiating power. Inside the U.S. government, discussions intensified. Diplomats began pushing for new trade talks, revised standards, compliance with Kenya's regulations, stronger partnerships with East African farmers. But here's the twist: Kenya is not backing down. For the first time in decades, an African country is forcing a major Western power to adjust its agricultural export rules, not the other way around. Kenya's move comes at a time of global uncertainty. Climate change is hitting farms, supply chains are under pressure, food prices are rising. Nations are racing for stable markets by rejecting U.S. corn under old terms. Kenya is declaring, "We will protect our food systems first." This is a powerful stance, one that resonates across developing regions. And it could inspire a wave of similar decisions across Africa. Africa holds 60% of the world's remaining arable land, one of the fastest growing food markets, rapid advances in irrigation, seeds, and technology, increasing investment from Asia, Middle East, and Europe, with population growth and innovation booming. Africa is projected to become the largest agricultural zone on Earth within the coming decades. That means one thing: who controls African agriculture controls future global food security, and Kenya is making sure Africa controls Africa. Washington is expected to push for renegotiation, improve export compliance, offer improved terms, engage Kenya through new diplomatic channels. Meanwhile, Kenya is supporting local farmers with subsidies, expanding irrigation and storage, scaling up local maize production, strengthening regional trade through the EAC. This is shaping up to be a long game, a strategic game. The corn market, once dominated by the U.S., is now seeing new contenders: Brazil, Argentina, Ukraine, South Africa. As Kenya diversifies, U.S. exporters could lose market share. Long-term contracts influence in East Africa. This is not just a trade dispute. It's a turning point. The world is changing. Africa is changing. And Kenya's decision to shut out U.S. corn exports is more than a headline. It is a statement of sovereignty, a statement of confidence, a statement that Africa's voice in global trade is no longer optional. It is essential. As the United States recalculates its strategy, as African nations continue to rise, and as global competition intensifies, one thing is clear: the balance of economic power is shifting, and Kenya just accelerated the transformation.